West Indies Cricket, Caribbean Cricket Podcast. West Indies Cricket, Caribbean Cricket Podcast.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. I don't need to talk about myself because Santokie is up, people. And when I say he's up, I mean he's up in various different ways. One, he's up because he's actually awake. He's avoided the sleep and he's awake. Baby might send him to sleep soon. But before he does that, he's also up because Santokie, last I checked, President Irfan Ali's giving you money, cuz.
Yeah, actually, good point to start with. You know what? I got excited because I saw the headline: $100,000 to all Guyanese citizens abroad, locally, everywhere. So I was thinking, well, I can hand in my notice, quit my job. But then I realized it was 100,000 Guyanese dollars, which is about 400 English pounds. So not enough to quit the job. But that was a good segue, Mash, because in this episode we're here to talk about the Guyana or the Global Super League being held in Guyana. It's in about 3 weeks' time, 26th of November. And no one really, Mash, is covering it. So we thought, CCP, we're out here covering all different aspects of the game in the region. What better way than to talk about, the Global Super League, its beginnings, sort of what we expect from it and how we think it might pan out in Guyana. So to kind of give context for the intro, it was in April at the CAVICOM Cricket Conference in a bid to revive West Indies cricket. President Irfan Ali of Guyana, he announced, bear with me, I'll just get the script now. He said, in Guyana, we are working with the West Indies Cricket Board, CPL, and the ICC to launch a new product for the region that will position the region in the global market, the World Premier League. We are hoping that it will replace what used to be the Champions League. Now, Mash, this was a bold statement to make because the Champions League is something, it's been tried and tested before. It ran from about 4 years in India, and it never really managed to have that longevity, and it kind of fell away. So for Irfan Ali to kind of say he's reviving it in Guyana, it got people talking. It made outside of the region, it got people talking about how is this Champions League going to work, what's going to happen. Initially, he said it was going to be 8 teams taking place in Guyana. We didn't really hear much about it. It kind of got forgotten. And then 6 months later, in October, we heard the Global Super League had been announced. So 5 teams taking part, T20 teams taking part in Guyana. And, it's being marketed as, champions of T20 cricket playing against each other. So, Mash, I'm just going to read out the teams and then we'll get your opinions on it. So I'm going to give some context as well. So we've got Guyana Amazon Warriors. Naturally, the hosts, they had to be in it. They were runners-up in CPL, obviously lost to the Barbados Tridents. So we've got them. They're not the CPL champions, but they are hosts. So you'd imagine, the crowds are going to come out for Guyana Amazon Warriors. Then we've got Lahore Qalandars, I think I'm saying that right, who finished last in this year's PSL, Pakistan Super League. Darren Goff is their head coach. We've got the Rangpur Riders, who lost in the qualifiers in the Bangladesh Premier League 2024. We've got the Hampshire Hawks, who finished 7th out of 9th in the T20 Blast group in England. And we've got Victoria, who are hail from Australia. They're not a big bash franchise. They're a state team who don't play T20 cricket. So essentially, they're like a first-class 50-over team. They've been included in the tournament. So, Mash, let's get your opinions firstly. What do you make of this Global Super League? And bearing in mind, it was marketed as, a Champions League T20 edition. Surely the fact that none of the teams taking part are champions of their domestic leagues is already a massive sort of red flag or warning for the tournament.
Yeah, so I think this tournament has a 1-year sanction, first and foremost. I think it's important to say that. So Cricket West Indies has sanctioned it for this 1 year. Now, what we need to work out, Santokie, is this tournament going to go the way of the 60? Remember that tournament? Yeah. CPL introduced that tournament to much fanfare. Chris Gale was like the kind of head ambassador of it. And actually, I didn't mind the 60, but the point is it was there for 1 year. We haven't seen it since. My issue with the Global Super League is Irfan over-promised and has under-delivered. Now, he might listen to this. Irfan might listen to this. Well, one, he might close the borders and say, I can't come in after that comment. But Irfan might listen to this and say, I never said that it was going to be a Champions League in the guise of what we're used to, or the concept that we're used to of the Champions League back in the day. But when you start off with such lofty proclamations about a global championship and the only teams that are announced initially is Amazon Warriors. You're expecting something bigger than what we've now. Obviously, it wasn't feasible. Either way, I would have been shocked if the winners of BBL and PSL and I would have been shocked if they'd all agreed to come anyway. But there was definitely a lot of bombast with how this was all announced, and I'm just left with a very underwhelming feeling as to the nature of this tournament. That doesn't mean it won't be good.
Mm.
Will I watch it? No. And what I'm more intrigued to see, Santokie, is obviously there's prize money, it's $1 million and whatever. What I'm more intrigued to see is what's going to happen in Guyana when the Amazon Warriors aren't playing. So I do not doubt that the Guyanese fans will show up for the Amazon Warriors, because I think the Amazon Warriors brand is one of the best things in Guyana, in so much as most of Guyana, if not all of Guyana, buy into the Amazon Warriors band. It's almost is a symbolism of the country in essence, right? In the same way how in Trinidad everyone rallies around TKR and so on and so forth. So I don't doubt that the Amazon Warriors games will be packed and blah blah blah. But then other games, apart from betting and match fixing, man, who's watching those games? I don't really understand how that's gonna work.
Yeah, I think you made a massive, very valid point. Especially some of the games are at 10 a.m. I believe. So as much as we hear like Guyanese fans are passionate about cricket, there's also a limit to it. Like Rangpur Riders versus Victoria, who's really going to watch that at 10 a.m. in Guyana? So it'd be interesting to see sort of how the marketing works and how they generate crowds. And also, Mash, the fact that it's for $1 million prize money, it'd be interesting to see like how that's being funded. We know ExxonMobil are sponsoring the tournament from what we've heard. So there's obviously a big sponsor at the moment, but what sort of TV deals will they get? What sponsorship? What sort of rights? And I think the overall point, Mash, whether if you're going to have a tournament with the best T20 sides in the world, you have to have the IPL team in it. Basically, that's the only way. Yeah. That's the only way a Champions League would work. Without an Indian team or an IPL team, it's not going to happen. I mean, if RCB were in this tournament and Virat Kohli was showing up, you'd say it's a massive success. Everyone's going to watch it and flock. However, that's not possible. So it does lead to question marks. However, I think you made a good point. We can't really judge it until we've seen it. For all we know, the matches might be good, might be exciting, might get people talking, and the deal might be extended. But the one thing that's interesting is you mentioned earlier, it's been sanctioned by Cricket West Indies. And it goes on at the same time. It runs parallel to the Test series against Bangladesh. So immediately what comes to mind is Shamar Joseph, Gudakesh Moti, maybe Kevin Sinclair won't be able to take part in this Global Super League because they'd be playing for West Indies Test side. Now, with Shamar Joseph and Moti, they're essentially the poster boys for the Amazon Warriors. So if you've got a situation where, and Shimon Hetmyer has also signed up for the Abu Dhabi T10 League at the same time. So it's likely he'll be playing in Abu Dhabi. So if you've also got a Guyana Amazon Warriors side, which lacks the star power, the local star players, that's also sort of a massive issue as well. So it'd be interesting to see how they get around that. And it's also interesting that Cricket West Indies sanctioned it to go ahead at the same time as a Test series, because you'd imagine normally they'd want a clear window for Test cricket. I know it's been played at different times, but it just adds to the complication. So I'm really interested to see sort of how it pans out and how it works. But it just at the moment, Mash, I think there's not been enough information about it, and sort of it's been left unclear. For instance, Victoria, the Australian side, they don't have a T20 side. So are they just going to get guys who play red ball cricket to show up and play T20 cricket? And how is that going to be marketed? Who's going to generate that? So there's a lot of questions, but I guess ultimately, Mash, it also shows the ambition of the Guyana Cricket Board and President Irfan Ali to kind of promote cricket, because this has been marketed as a global super league. And it's something which, whilst there's been flaws in the planning from what we've seen and sort of a lot of question marks, you can't deny that it's certainly an ambitious initiative.
Yeah, most definitely. I think Cricket West Indies were in a bind with this one. I can't give away too much information, but who can really say no? And this isn't Cricket West. This is bigger than Cricket West Indies. Who can really say no to Irfan in the Caribbean right now, with all that oil that's swirling around in Guyana and the economic boom that Guyana are experiencing and are going to experience if Exxon don't teeth all the money and all the oil? Irfan can call the shots. Cricket West Indies can't say nothing to Irfan. Like right now, Irfan could easily look at Cricket West Indies and say, "You need me more than I need you," if that makes sense, right? So Cricket West Indies had to sanction this tournament in some weird way, but one thing that I have been told, and I don't know if this is if it's an exclusive or not, because I don't know if it's really been announced anywhere. The games, although they clash with the Test series, they aren't allowed to take place at the same time as the Test matches. That's what I've been told behind the scenes. So all of the games have to be played. Well, I guess what after 5 o'clock, which may suit Guyana, to be honest. Maybe
Yeah.
you want them to be evening games, but they're not. I've been told that the agreement was that they won't be played at the same time as the Test match is going on. I've also been told that none of the Test players or whoever selects in that Test squad, so that's 15 players or 13 for a home series, none of them are allowed to be selected in this global thing. So, as you said, that's Shamar and Multi definitely. Could even be Shea Hope for all we know.
Yeah.
And you actually tweeted something the other day. Who's Hope playing for then? Don't he play for Lahore?
Yeah, so Shea Hope actually, we'll move on. This segues to the sort of availability. So, Hope actually played a few games for Lahore, but you'd imagine because Guyana was essentially his domestic side, the Caribbean side, you'd imagine he'd play for them. But again, there's sort of confused. Like Nicholas Pooran played for Rangpur Riders. Are they going
Did
to be
he?
able to? Yeah, Nick.
See, I don't even know these things.
Nicholas Pooran and Shakib Al Hassan played for Rangpur Riders. Shaheen Afridi played for Lahore. Now the thing is, if you get someone like Shaheen Afridi, one of the world's leading bowlers in T20 cricket, that might drive an audience, and that's sort of someone you can market around. And obviously, Guyana Amazon Warriors had like Moeen Ali as their big overseas player, so they will. It'll be interesting if they attract these stars, and I think that leads to the wider point, Mash. The fact that I didn't know Pooran played for Rangpur Riders until I googled like who played for Rangpur Riders. I think no matter where you hold a Champions League T20 tournament at the moment, it's never going to work because it's become so globalized. Like when the Champions League T20 started, do you remember when Darren Ganga led the Trinidad and Tobago side, like 2009, 2010?
Yeah.
Pollard, Evan Lewis, Jason Mohammed, Sunil Narayan, Badri, they hadn't been seen anywhere else. This was a domestic side, and they sort of tore it up in the Champions League, and then they got their deals. Nowadays, you got someone like a Pooran or Hetmai, they play for 5 or 6 different franchises. So it's always going to be complicated having a Champions League T20 because there's so many overlaps. Essentially, the deals, franchise deals have been concentrated to a small percentage of players. So if you're a top player, you're playing for about 6 or 7 different franchises, and that takes away sort of the luster of a Champions League T20 as a concept. So for me personally, I think like whilst it's ambitious for Guyana to host this, I just think in modern cricket you can't hold a Champions League T20 tournament because as we saw towards the later stages of the original Champions League T20, players couldn't play for their local franchises if they had an IPL side in the tournament. So I don't know if you remember the last edition in 2014, Barbados Tridents. Pollard didn't play for Barbados Tridents, even though he was their captain.
Yeah.
Because he played for he was playing for Mumbai and they were in the tournament. So he played for Mumbai. Ryan Emrit was the captain of Barbados Tridents, and they had to sign players specifically for the Champions League because they didn't have enough players. Shoaib Malik was playing for another franchise in the Champions League. So I just think it's incompatible in terms of how you can sort of manage it in the modern cricket calendar. But I do think it will get people talking because whilst we've shown that it's not essentially a Champions League T20 tournament because no one's a champion in it, it's more of an exhibition. If it was marketed as a T20 exhibition, it would go down well. But because it was initially marketed as Champions League T20, there's going to be expectations. And I think when it starts, there will be people watching it to see if it can work as a prototype for a future Champions League tournament. But from the press releases I've seen, it does look like Guyana's hoping to host at least 5 years worth of tournaments. So a lot will hinge, like you said, it's been sanctioned for 1 year. A lot will hinge on the success of this edition in terms of going forward.
So I've got two a set of different questions here. So one question would be, what is success? I'd love to know what their success metric will be. I think a lot of competitions, tournaments, whether at the international level or franchise level, they measure their metrics in TV viewing numbers and sponsorships. So I don't think they're over. I mean, look at the ILT20. They don't seem to care that nobody's in the ground watching the games, right? So it's like these franchise tournaments in some countries are like white elephant tournaments. No one's even watching them in the ground, and no one cares, which probably tells you how much betting money is involved and how much these competitions are targeted towards the betting market, right? If we're going to be realistic and honest about what's going on. So what is the success metric? So you might want to write these down because I want you to answer them. So question 1, what is the success metric for this tournament? Question 2, what are Guyana even getting out of this? Is this a way to boost and promote Guyana as a tourist destination? I'm being serious. This isn't me taking the piss. Are they like trying to promote Guyana as a globally to the rest of the world? Because if that's not the aim, then what is the aim? Is it about Exxon trying to promote themselves to the rest of the world? I don't know. So 2, what's the real aim behind this? And then 3, do you think each team is actually just going to be locals only? So although they've said, and would that be better for the tournament? So Lahore only play a Pakistan team. Hampshire only play Englishmen. Victoria play a bunch of random Australian man. Who's the other team? Rangpur play some Bengali man, right? And then Guyana just play essentially the Harpy Eagles. Now, Guyana may say, now we're going to take Caribbean man from all over and so on and so forth. But if it was just pure national lines, do you think that gives the competition more context?
Yeah, so the first question, success metrics, that's an interesting one because I don't think they're going to base success metric on crowds because, like you said, I don't think it will sell out for games that don't feature Guyana Amazon Warriors. What I do think the metric could be used at is amount of streaming views, depending on where it's streamed. Because if you've got, let's say you've got Lahore versus Rangpur, Shakib and Shaheen, you're going to get thousands and thousands of people in the subcontinent. So if you can put that down as X amount of people viewed the tournament in its first year, I think they'll base it on the viewing figures. I think you can't base it on the live attendance because that's not going to work. So I think they're going to base it on maybe income generated from sponsorship deals. Like you said, Exxon, we don't know how much money they're pouring into it, but I think mainly it will be on the amount of eyes on the tournament virtually. So how many streams it gets. I think for Guyana, this falls in line with sort of, we live in England. We've seen President Ali. He's been on TV, English TV, going viral. He's cussed out BBC. He's been on ITV cussing everyone. So I think this sort of goes in line with Guyana at the moment because of the oil money. Is sort of on an upward trajectory, at least in terms of its public image. So I think this sort of goes along with the sort of new vision in Guyana. Like, we're launching this brand new global T20 tournament. It's a Guyana only thing. It's not West Indies thing. It's not Caribbean. And also the fact that it was announced at the CARICOM Cricket Symposium also shows that it's almost like a politics thing, where it's like, who can have the bigger idea? Who can have the better idea? So the fact this was announced at a big symposium with all the Caribbean leaders, and it was like, listen, Guyana's going to do this big tournament, it kind of puts the spotlight on Guyana. So I think this is more just to put the spotlight on Guyana as a developing nation. Because probably in all my lifetime, this is the most sort of overseas publicity I've ever seen Guyana get in just all different aspects of life. So this sort of falls in line with that. And the third question, I think, were you going to say something?
I was just going to say, just off the back of that point, that if politics is playing a role in it, because let's be honest, here's where the Caribbean people now start getting angry when I say this or start jumping up. The real power shakers in the Caribbean right now are Barbados and Guyana in terms of global significance. Yes, of course, Jamaica's, and I'll speak as a Jamaican. Yes, we're the biggest island. Yes, we've got a cultural global brand, but within the context of the Caribbean and political figureheads, Mia is always on the global stage, and Irfan has got oil money and isn't afraid to say it as it is and boost the profile of his country. So I think this may also be, I think you're right. I don't know if that's a point you're making, but it's also about political maneuvering and almost realigning the kind of, what do I want to say here? Realigning the center of power within the Caribbean.
Yeah, it's like NWO, New World Order. So I think you hit the nail on the head there, Mash. I think it's literally all about that. And your third point, in terms of, I actually think, you know what? If you've got this tournament's 2 weeks, right? Why didn't they just have a domestic T20 Caribbean tournament? I think that would have got more interest.
This is what was weird to me. Yeah, exactly. That would have garnered more interest, surely.
Because I think Guyana, Amazon, Trinidad versus Barbados, domestic players in Guyana would still get people going just because it's Caribbean players. You got Bajans and Trinidadians who live in Guyana. So I think that would get more of an interest. But I just think probably by having teams from around the world, they're just hoping to attract different audiences around the world. So that's probably the fact, and the fact you can market it as global. I think because it's something that hasn't been done in a long time. If you
Yeah.
had a Caribbean domestic tournament, it's just another tournament. Like, it's only going to be important within the Caribbean. I think this is sort of showing the ambition and trying to market it as being global. And I'm interested to see if it is a success. Does this mean bigger franchises will sort of take note and try and join?
This is the thing. So I think the whole gamble here is year one. It's like any startup, innit? Year one, you get all the kind of seed money and funding, and obviously Exxon is in Guyana, so of course that helps. Year one, you get all of your seed money, and you effectively say to investors, you're going to get your money back tenfold, because if year one is a success, next year now Victoria don't come, we get a big bash team that comes. Next year Rangpur Riders don't come, we get the Bangladesh Premier League champions come in. Because if it's a success, and if they can say to the Bangladesh League, the Australian, the Big Bash League, and all the other leagues, the T20 Blast, and say, look at the global figures we got, I think their argument will be teams will be begging them to come to the next year's one. Do you see where I'm coming from?
But then you've also got the plot twist of, if this goes well and it's a success, because like we said, we don't know how it's going to go. It could you could have exciting matches and people watching it, and it becomes a success. If it is a success, surely India BCCI will look at it.
I was going to say, yeah. I want to see how much power does Irfan have if IPL see it's a success, and then start saying to him, "Now shut that down, bruv."
So it's an interesting, because like you said, you've got the CARICOM politics, but within that you've also got like world cricket politics, because I can't imagine West Indies, is in cricket terms at the moment, it's a small power, like it's a falling power. So I can't imagine a successful T20 tournament, Champions League style, taking place in Guyana, and another nation, namely probably India, maybe England, thinking, hold on, we can just move it here, we'll get bigger crowds, we'll generate the money. So either way, it's a tricky one. But for the sake of West Indies and the region, we're hoping it's a success, because it is an ambitious plan, like we said. It's trying to take Guyana and West Indies cricket to the sort of next step. And it'd be interesting to see how it sort of builds. It's just at the moment the sort of lack of hype around it, and I think the fact
that's the issue.
It's the lack of hype and I think it's always going to be hard, because you've obviously got West Indies playing Test cricket at the same time. You've got India, Australia are playing a Test series at the same time. So it's fallen in a period where, there's not going to be that many eyes on it. So it will depend on sort of various factors as to whether it is a success. But at the moment, it's weird. Like, it was announced and then there's not really been anything since. It's kind of just fallen onto the wayside. So
it's supposed to start in literally 3 weeks. We don't even know who's in the teams. So don't get me wrong, like you, as much as I said I won't watch it, I'll watch the beginning, because with any tournament that's new, you initially tune in to go, okay, is this worth my time? But whoever's someone needs to be in front of, someone should be on this show right now going, let me tell you about, so whoever wants to come on this show and promote Global Super League and answer the questions people have, come on the show, because we're not anti it. We're not anti the tournament, but we don't know nothing, because there ain't really nothing to say.
Yeah, I would. It'd be interesting to know who would be like the commentary team and stuff. Like, if they'll get, the big.
I know somebody's told me who. So I know one person who's going to be there, because they've confirmed they're going to be out there. But
what is it?
I'm not. All right, Irfan, send me 100,000, please. Send me 100,000, Irfan, and I'll fly over to Guyana to come commentate. But no, I know a couple people who have told me they're going to be out there commentating on it. So, but it's going to be interesting, because of course West Indies is going on. So
that's what I mean.
Where's like normally on West Indies commentary you have Bish, Ganga, Badri, Nikhil. So what? They can't do Guyana. Sorry, they can't do Global Super League and do thing. So who are going to be their figurehead commentators then? Because remember, those men are the men who do CPL. So who's going to do? Do you get where I'm coming from?
Yeah, exactly.
So,
and I would love to see what the marketing budget is, and if it's going to start off with big fanfare, like an opening ceremony, or how much is Guyana going to invest in it, or is it going to be like a small time tournament where we just see empty seats and It's just a standard T20 match. So very interesting to see, Mash. And I guess it goes to our beginning point. No one else is really talking about the Global Super League. It's not really been covered. But, CCP, we never forget anything. We cover all angles. So we thought, just have a little summary update on the Global Super League and on our thoughts on it. And probably it's 3 weeks away, probably nearer the time, once we know the squads and more details about it, we'll probably do a follow-up video just to kind of check in on how it's going.
Yeah, 100%. Listen, people, people should be shocked. I wonder if they've noticed that our videos nowadays don't go any longer than, if they go half an hour, we've surprised ourselves.
No, but this is unprecedented because you're jet lagged from Antigua. I'm permanently jet lagged at the moment from fatherhood. It's the only thing that could stop us going on to an hour.
Listen, people, Santokie's got to get to sleep because in about 5-6 hours he's gonna have to wake up and do baby feeding through the night. So let me let him go. People, as Santokie says, as ever on the ticker tape below, you can find us on all handles, social media handles. Just type Caribbean Cricket Podcast into Google. Go to the website, you'll see all the links. You can see at the top of this screen as well. Instagram, X, TikTok, the Discord, Patreon. If you want to become a patron, £1, $1, whatever your currency is, you can contribute. Just head to www.patreon.com/CaribCricket. We're on Facebook and OnlyFans. So find us wherever you can, people. And we'll be back.
Mash needs to pay for his next West Indies tour, So get subscribed to OnlyFans.
Antigua bankrupted me, man. I can't go on a West Indies tour again for a long time. But people, if you want to support the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, look at the ticker tape below. Any little bit helps and counts. Listen, let me let Santokie go to bed. He's got to get up very, very soon. And thank you, everyone. As usual, stay locked in for more content very, very soon.
West Indies Cricket, Caribbean Cricket Podcast.